Hello everyone. Really nice to see so many people here after such just a few days' notice. So thank you and welcome to Brighton, all those who aren't from Brighton, and great to see all those who are. And of course first I'd like to welcome Rinpoche to Brighton again and to say thank you, Rinpoche, for coming just for this day. It's such, in such a midst of a busy schedule that I know you have, and yet you've come down here. And I can't put into words how appreciative we are that you're actually here and sitting here. Thank you so much. I don't think there's very much I need to say about Rinpoche. You all know, probably seen him many times before. Dzongsa Khensa Rinpoche is the emanation of Dzongsa Khensa Chökyi Lodro, and one of his main teachers is Kyabje Dilgo Khensa Rinpoche. And also as well as being such a great Vajra master, Tibetan master, he's also a great filmmaker, as you know. And the last time that Rinpoche visited Brighton, which he remembered when we were talking about earlier, was when, I don't know how many of you were present, but we put on the film The Cup at the Duke of York, and Rinpoche gave a little talk afterwards. And that was, I think, about 11 years ago. So, Rinpoche, thank you for coming back today. Thank you.
Larry, do you have those pink papers?
These what papers? The pink.
Did you throw?
I'm not sure.
It's okay, I think I remember. Okay. This is good. So, Larry asked me to say a few words about Buddhism and morality, right? And whether Buddhism is a moralistic path, and also what is really Bodhichitta. I'm a little bit disoriented, just arriving from the East, and also immediately after arriving, I went to Oxford, and at the moment I'm supposedly doing something in Oxford. I don't know what I'm doing, but anyway, one of the cause of disorientation is I've been talking with a lot of few scholars in Oxford. They're very good, really good, very good. There are many so-called Buddhist professors or Buddhist experts, and they strongly oppose reincarnation. They don't believe that non-duality is taught by the Buddha and stuff like that. Very good. It's very educational for me. I had just yesterday talked about someone I have actually only heard the name, but never really learned anything about him. Karl Popper. Karl Popper. So also in Oxford I was told that they are studying Buddhism objectively. That's very interesting. So this is all disorienting for me because I have to switch my mind to I've switched mine back to the Buddhist mind, so to speak, in order to talk about this. Anyway, this is a very important subject. If we don't talk about non-duality, then I don't think we can really talk about Buddhism at all. But non-duality is not so easy. Recently I was talking to Indians, just Indian intellectuals. And I was even kind of worried that how much we Tibetans actually managed to conceive the idea of non-duality thoroughly, as much as these Indians seems to have done. It's not that easy, this non-duality, to really conceive this. Especially if you think like, I think, Karl Popper's way. And if you really think that something can be observed and valued objectively, non-duality is difficult. About a year ago, I met a professor in America, Berkeley University, and he's told me something very interesting. He said, actually, it's very important that the Tibetan Lamas know the history of Buddhism, and especially the history of Buddhism in the West. And he said, especially in America, because he said that the emergence of Buddhism in the West it started with a very a Descartes-like Buddhism. So it's a very dualistic Buddhism, so to speak. I can see some sense. I can understand him, because even the most seasoned Dharma practitioner in the West, sometimes I do have doubt how much they are really understanding. Of course, we are not talking about actually a realization of non-duality, but we are talking about intellectual understanding of non-duality. Because the concept is just not provable. Because every logic, language, method of measurement is dualistic. So, dualistic method cannot measure and value something non-dualistic, obviously. And anything that cannot be proved, or anything that does not have a manufacturing date, so to speak, I think in the materialistic world, modern world, it's all not really, it's a story, basically, it's like a story. It really doesn't have much value in it. I'm throwing you this because the question, what is really bodhicitta, is quite an important question. Because at glance, when you hear the word bodhicitta, I'm sure for many it's referring to a very philanthropic, compassionate, kind, and tolerant kind of mind. When often, we sort of say that somebody is a bodhisattva because so-and-so person does not throw tantrums. Therefore, he or she is a bodhisattva. Always a bodhisattva is assumed to be someone who is gentle, smiling, sort of never throw temper. So bodhicitta, and also I think generally when people talk about religion and religious practices, we do tend to talk about love, compassion, forgiveness. So somehow, and also in the West, of course, many Western religions like Christianity does seem to have all this element. So immediately, when we talk about bodhicitta, people tend to think bodhicitta is something to do with, love and compassion, kindness. Of course, I'm not saying that that is wrong. But this is not the end of the bodhicitta. In fact, a big part of the bodhicitta is the non-duality. If you lose the non-duality aspect of the bodhicitta, actually if we lose the non-duality, we have lost 99.99 aspect of the bodhicitta. We have lost. We may have a little bit of that smiling, touchy-feely kind of, do the right thing kind of bodhicitta. But yes, if we don't have the non-duality, then we have lost a big portion, really, the biggest portion of the bodhicitta. And this is backed by lots of sutras and shastras. One of the shastra that I'm sure many of you have read, such as Shantadeva's Bodhicharya Avatara. Right at the beginning of the 9th chapter, the Shantadeva said, all these practices of the Bodhisattva practices, such as discipline, mindfulness, meditation, vigilance, generosity, one-pointed concentration, all of these are nothing they are really nothing if it is not accompanied or if it is not grounded to the prajna or the wisdom. But this is difficult, as I was saying earlier. This is very difficult because, especially the non-duality, as I'm repeating again and again, it's not something that we can discuss, talk, demonstrate. The best we could do is sort of say a few words about it. Even though it is the most important part, it is very difficult to express. So, emotionally, every time when we attempt to practice the bodhicitta, we always end up holding on to the relative aspect of the bodhicitta, which is usually love and compassion, all of that. If we read a sutra very carefully, actually Buddha demonstrated these things again and again. Even the structure of the sutra can tell us a lot. The very popular sutra, Vajrachedika Sutra, which is translated loosely as what? Diamond cutter, the diamond cutting sutra or diamond cutter. If you read this from the beginning, it has a full descriptions about how Buddha, after having the lunch, washing the begging bowl, folding his robes, folding his meditation mat, putting it properly on the ground, sitting on that mat, sitting very straight, and then he did some meditation. And then the discourse begins with one of the close disciples called Subhuti. And then they go on, and then there's a long discourse. It's like 40 pages of conversation between his close disciple Subhuti and him. And towards the end, Buddha begins to say things like, Buddha begins to ask his disciple Subhuti, have I taught? And Subhuti said, no, you haven't taught. And Buddha said, excellent, I have never taught. Does Buddha have 32 major marks, 80 minor marks, golden color, all of that, the sort of what we call Buddha quality, the physical Buddha quality? Subhuti said the same thing, no. So, there again, it is out of lack of tools or methods to demonstrate the ultimate truth. This is the best thing he could do, so to speak. Shakyamuni Buddha, after he achieved enlightenment, the first thing he said was that he found a truth that cannot be expressed, that cannot be conceived by ordinary mind or mind. It cannot be it cannot be subjective. Therefore, he is not going to. And therefore, he decides to remain in the forest. But it's believed that his would-be disciple, Indira and Brahma, they came and asked him to teach. Asked him to teach, and he then agreed to teach, beginning with teachings in Saranath. So, it's very difficult to understand the ultimate bodhicitta. But, as I said, without that, the bodhicitta is not complete. In fact, a big part of the bodhicitta is not complete. Similarly, morality, one of the discussion, one of the questions is about morality. There are many different methods of discipline in Buddhism. Myriad, in fact. One method, or that morality or discipline that is prescribed in one particular teaching almost contradicts with another morality or methods of discipline in other Buddha's teachings. For instance, this is actually why ordinary people, not knowing the ultimate aspect or the non-duality aspect, there's so many misunderstandings. For instance, like if you go to traditional Buddhist societies or countries like Thailand or Sri Lanka, there the monks would eat meat. It's not because they are allowed to eat meat, but they are not allowed to, they are supposed to eat whatever is given or offered on that day. But then again, if you go to places like Japan or China, the Mahayana practitioners, for them the discipline is no meat at all. So there is already some kind of contradiction within the Buddhist discipline. There's so many of that. What is allowed to one person is not allowed for others. And then, for Tantrayana practitioners, many people seem to have misconception that Tantric people are allowed of doing lots of things that are not allowed to others, which is not true. There is never an allowance, actually. There is never, and to be, more precise, there's no it's like methods or the disciplines such as shaving hair in Buddhism for the monks is purely a skillful means. So, in other words, what I'm saying is, again, non-duality have to take the precedence, or non-duality is more important than shaving hair or not shaving. It is to understand the non-duality. It is to actualize the non-duality, the disciplines such as like monks' vow or nuns' precept, vows are applied purely to understand the non-duality. See, if we lose the non-duality, and if Buddhism really puts importance to the morality, then it will become a very dangerous, because then a value of a practitioner will be judged by who is morally good and right. And this is very dangerous, because many times we know that morally somebody could be, of course we are using a very big language, morality. Somebody could be very good with the morality, but they may have no compassion, they may have no understanding of the truth. And because there is no understanding of the truth, and because of that there is no compassion, the morality actually becomes a sort of a pillar for our pride and arrogance. So the whole purpose of morality is again defeated. So my answer to what is really bodhicitta? Bodhicitta is put it very simply, bodhicitta is a wish. If you ask this question, what is bodhicitta? Usually the answer is this wish and practice to enlighten all the sentient beings. But the word enlightenment has the connotation of non-duality. Because when we talk about enlightenment meaning awaken from something. Awaken from what? Awaken from a sleep, a deep sleep. And what is that sleep? What is that ignorance? Is none other than the dualism. So all the Buddhist practice, generosity, morality, including exotic methods in the Vajrayana, Tantrayana, such as visualizations, all of this must be accompanied by the wisdom of non-duality. A great scholar, a Tibetan scholar, Gedin Chapel, he said something quite amazing. He said, if it is not for non-duality, the tantric practice of visualization is a complete joke. Some of you may be quite familiar with the tantric practice of like upanikrama, like visualization. What do? We visualize in the midst of big fire, we visualize lotus petal. In the center of the lotus, a cool moon disk. And then comes the seed syllable, and then emerges the deity. And many times the deity is very, very wrathful. At the same time, deity is embracing a very passionate consort. All of this is a contradiction. How can a lotus petal last amidst the big fire? How can a cool moon be cool? All of this is a contradiction. It's logically, human point of view is not possible. So he goes on saying this. Gedenshofer said, if to really understand Buddhism, one has to learn to believe in things that are not believable. This is a very big challenge, because we have entered ourselves into a certain trap. We will only believe in things that is believable. Now, some of you may think, now, are we talking about blind devotion? Yes, we are talking about a blind devotion, actually. And I'm saying blind devotion is very necessary. And I'm saying this because you have no choice. Apart from blind devotion, as a human being, you don't have anything else. Whatever you are believing even now, you believe that you are a human being? That is a total blind devotion. And you may have some reason not to believe in certain things. You can take pride, especially if you go to places where I am at the moment. Intellectual, critical thinking, analytical thinking, all of that. You can go on and deceive yourself. You have this critical mind. I don't believe in this, and I have a good reason not to believe in this. But, we blindly believe in that reason for not believing. We have no other choice. So, actually, not only the Tantrayana, to be a follower, to be a spiritual person. I'm not talking about the Tantra, I'm not talking about the Mahayana, just generally a spiritual person. If you want to be a spiritual person, you have two choices. Either you have to be 100% learned and a wise person, or you have to be 100% idiot. That's the only, you understand, you have two choices. Neither choice we have. Unfortunately, we are not 100% idiot. Unfortunately, I would say. Because we do know few things. And that really, this partial information that we have in our head is going to really drag us and bog us down along the way. But since we are already in that territory, we have no choice. We have to now learn few things which you will have to get rid of. You will have to learn few things so that you can unlearn other things. You will have to Yes, learn and treasure the method of learning along the way. And finally, you have to also learn to really develop a revulsion towards one that which you have been trained to love. I didn't drink any alcohol earlier, so don't worry. Maybe this I'm saying is I'm maybe not making sense here, but I think my mind is intact at the moment. So later you can ask me what I mean by these things. Because these two questions are very important. What is Bodhicitta? And is Buddhism moralistic path? Yes, it is a moralistic path, but the morality of Buddhism has to accompany with a non-duality. If we lose the non-duality, it will become a puritanical path. And that we have too many. Why have Buddhism? It's an extra burden. Very important not to forget the non-duality aspect. For bodhicitta also, for love and compassion, for tolerance, for anything you do actually, to develop or to actually have a so-called spiritual path, you need to have this. Because if you don't have the non-duality, and if you are following a spiritual path, that means that you are still attached to a concept called purpose and usefulness. And that's not good. If you want to be useful, fundamentally, if you want to be useful, not so good. Not so good. You have to really learn to be completely useless. So important. This. And manage to actually rule the whole nation, you have to have that. To become useless does not mean you become what do you call it? Bum? Yeah? Not at all. Because bum is very useful. To become a bum is very useful. That is, especially in a kind of a socialist country like England, very useful. You know, people will take care of you and government will pay the bills and stuff like that. You can make some liberal, woolly-headed remarks time to time, and you can pride yourself. Very useful. So, yes, going back to bodhicitta, to practice the bodhicitta, you have to have a certain daringness also, you know. So that is the answer. What is bodhicitta really here? But if you don't want to hear this, then my answer is, bodhicitta is that very philanthropic, smiling, you know, be nice to everyone, be helpful to everyone, do prayers, don't get angry when, if somebody steps on your toes. All those are fine, no problem. Those will do for the time being. But if you follow that path, and if you are smart, after a while, you will find that you have become a victim of a bodhicitta. And then you will need a very, very special psychotherapist or psychologist. Where do you go then? I'm depressed because I've been practicing bodhicitta. I have lost all my confidence and I have lost all my self-esteem because I've been breathing out all my good things to others and breathing in all my all the other people's bad things inside. And now here I am, I'm a total miserable person. The gift of non-duality. Actually, let me tell you this. Gavin Chapel said, this is, maybe it's a little intellectual, but negating an existing negation of our existence is not so difficult. It's quite difficult, of course. But what is more difficult is negation of non-existence. That is so difficult. So the gift of non-duality, Shakyamuni Buddha's gift to this earth. If you can only think about this, wow, this is the most valuable gift. And it's not just like some really stimulating philosophical concept that you can read and sort of get sort of satisfaction intellectually. No. It is very practical, very practical. This is why Shakyamuni Buddha said in the Heart Sutra, and then he said, this mantra is good for that, including headache, toothache, everything. Remember in the Heart Sutra, this mantra you should chant, is good for this, good for that. And yeah, of course, people take it very literally. Oh, I have a toothache. Let's chant Tayatam Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhi Swaha. Of course, fine, no problem. But if you really contemplate on Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhi Swaha, at the least in the beginning, because you are now beginning to have a little glimpse of non-duality, you will learn not to make a big deal out of your toothache. And that's already a release from the toothache. The actual toothache is actually this big. It's all the paraphernalia of surrounding the toothache. But beyond that, I think it's almost, difficult for us to comprehend. I will tell you why. Because, the great, these great non-dual philosophers, such as Chandrakirti, he was not just like a university professor who read a lot, who thought a lot about the, non-duality, and who really are very impressive in talking about it. He was someone who actually, when it was necessary, milked a painted cow and fed the milk from the painted cow. Now we are talking about understanding the non-duality. Because in our head, painted cow, how can it be milked? See, we are stuck with that. Remember, a partial education, painted cow, impossible. For a Chandrakirti, the very idea of milking an actual cow, if that is possible, is very possible to milk a painted cow. Come to think of it. how did this even occur in our head? Milking a real cow. I mean, real just because I have to tell you as a real. For the Chandrakirti, no difference. But this is difficult. This is very difficult to understand by people like you and me. Very difficult. Why? As the great Longchenpa said, for someone who has never tasted a salt, how do we tell them the salt tastes like? We can only do things like give them a little bit of sugar and say, this is not it. Little bit of chili, this is not it. That's all we could do. And that's what we are doing right now. That's what we are doing. When we read the sutras like Hatha Sutra, oh, no nose, no eyes, no this, no that. That's the best we could do. And Buddha did so many times. Remember I was telling you Vajracchedika Sutra? He folded his robes, he washed his begging bowl, he sat very straight, and then he taught and taught and taught. And towards the end of the teaching, he said, I have never taught. Very confusing. You talked 40 pages and now you are telling us you have never taught? What do you mean? And he said things like, those who see me as a form, those who see Buddha as a form, those who hear Buddha as a sound, they all have a wrong view. And actually the Sanskrit word Buddha is so beautiful. I think that trying to understand literally would be really helpful actually. What is it that we, people like myself, who consider Buddhist, what are we trying to do? What is our aim? What is the aim of a Buddhist? Actually only two things, two qualities, that's all what we are looking for. Two qualities. To be awakened, that's one quality. And therefore, to be well equipped. These are the two qualities we are looking for. To be awakened and equipped, well endowed or accomplished. This is the only two things that we are looking for. Not really looking for some kind of a migration or some kind of a sex change or like a very special tanning or something like that, like a golden colored tan or nothing like that. Those things needs to be said because there are so many people who can't understand non-duality. Even the physical quality of the Buddha. Have you ever heard this? Even the physical quality of the Buddha. Buddha is praised to have 32 major physical qualities. It's supposedly very beautiful. And then if you ponder really deeply, it's believed that Buddha's width and the length is exactly the same. This doesn't look beautiful in our head, in our mind. This sounds like a Buddha looks like a box, a square box. But, what do you call it? Empress robe? Is it? Empress robe? Yes. Empress cloak? Empress new clothes, yeah. 32 major marks, 80 minor marks, all of these are like that. Necessary, very, very necessary. It's quite amazing. Actually, I just came from Bodh Gaya. When you go, some of you must have been to Bodh Gaya. So the main temple, if you go circumambulating, and as you finish one round, towards the end, there's a very, very famous statue. And then many, many people will say, oh, this is the statue of Tara. Tara. To whom, the Tara whom spoke to Atisha Dipamkara, who said, you have to go to Tibet. Because everybody presents beautiful, beautiful flowers and all of that. It's quite amazing. This is the first time I'm telling you this thing. This is kind of a secret, actually. This is really a secret. But all along, you know, this is not a Tara statue. I mean, even, there's no breast. It's just blatantly Avalokiteshvara statue. But who cares? Who cares? And someone asked me, why is there this misunderstanding? Everybody thinks this is Tara statue. Yet, this is not a Tara statue. This is Avalokiteshvara, blatantly. But hundreds and hundreds of people think it's a Tara. And my answer to that was, this alone proves the unobstructed manifestation of the Buddha, in this case the Tara. She is so powerful. She is so powerful. Her manifestation, a stone statue, no breasts, breastless, but yet making everybody, managing to make everybody think this is a Tara. What a power! Manifestation of the Buddha works this way. And I'm sure many those who pray to this statue as a Tara, I'm sure they are receiving blessing from the Tara. I shouldn't have said this. But anyway, I don't know, somehow, because we have to talk about the non-duality. And this is a good example. Non-duality is so precious. Without the non-duality, there is no communication. I'm not talking about the spiritual communication. Even here, if I say, do you want to have a glass of water? Even this, you will not hear. Even this, do you want to have a glass of water? You will not hear, you will not know how to interpret, you will not know how to understand, you will not know how to misunderstand, you will not know how to misinterpret. All of this exists. All of this abundance of the door to all this interpretation exists, thanks to non-duality. And by the way, don't think the non-duality is some kind of a energy or some kind of a, don't fall back to that. It is purely, the best word is non-duality. What else was there, Larry? How to recognize the evil with oneself. Oh yes, evil. Which book? Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I think the word must be translated from parche or du, which is like a Mara, demon, right? Actually, I have it here, the list of evil. Excellent, actually. So what a right timing. Okay.
The question was how to deal with evil in oneself and others. Not in
Yes.
Can't read that. Also in the world. Okay, I can't read it.
You know, if you read Life of the Buddha, 12 Deeds of the Buddha, after the 6 years of penance, Buddha went to the present-day Bodh Gaya. There, under the Bodhi tree, he sat. And what happened? Just as he was about to be enlightened, just as he was about to crush the last residue of ignorance, the usual suspect came, the Lord of the Mara, the evil, the Lord of the evil. That alone is actually a very, very significant symbolic teaching, you know. If there's any practitioners, you should hear this. You know, when we practice Dharma, many times we have obstacles like loss of inspiration, loss of devotion, loss of compassion, loss of wanting to even sit, things like this. This actually means you are about to get it. Just like the Buddha, you know, just he was about to get that, then the usual suspect came. This is their job, you know, they're paid to do this thing kind of thing. So that's the time that you have to be really mean, sort of kind of an enlightened way of being mean. You have to learn to do this. Where is it? Anyway, who came? The evil, the Lord of the evil. The Lord of the demon, the Mara, he came. He tried all kinds of things. He sent his daughters to seduce the Buddha, right? The story goes like that. But that's not the last battle. The last battle was Lord of the Mara came with 5 different arrows. And the 5 different arrows are the things like, this is what I was looking for, but I couldn't find. Anyway, just like doubt, distraction, making a big deal out of 8 worldly dharmas. Desire. Yes, desire is a very big one, actually. I think There is actually an order. I think it was Ashwagosha. Beautiful. The first arrow he aimed at the Buddha was, I think, the aggression. That's the easiest one. And then it was desire. Things like that. I think the last one is the doubt or the distraction. I don't remember this. Just a constant distraction. We are just constantly distracted. For instance, we don't, you are sitting, your bottom is on that chair right now, and you are not feeling your sensation of your underwear and the chair and the hardness of the floor. You are not aware of it. You are wearing necklaces. You are not aware of its weight. It's totally distracted. We are basically like a zombie, right? Zombie? Yes. Just not aware of anything. Not aware of feeling, not aware of sound. We're not aware of what we are thinking. Just that. That is actually, I think it is the enemies when they fight with you. They always send their best, right? The last, of course, they have to reserve that. That's the last bullet. Yeah, I think, it's the constant distraction. I think before that is the doubt. Doubt, and doubt comes, do you know why? Doubt is there because you have become a victim of logic. That's why there's this doubt. You have become a logician. Logic is the most powerful way to make yourself trapped. Yeah, so these are evil, actually, in Buddha Dharma. Now, how do we what? What was the question? How to guard ourselves or something like that? How do we deal? Oh, that's a very big question. Yeah, we just read Bodhichitta Avatar from the beginning. It is all there. Everything, even minute details like how to point somebody's the right way. I mean, physically, like which way to Oxford. You are not supposed to use 2 fingers or stuff like that. All the way, all the details, everything. Some of them you might think it's a little outdated, but many of them very, very important. Anyway, as Shantideva said, Samsung turjuk mata ko turjuk jenji jishiku. Apart from taming the mind, what is there? I mean, all the other penance of taming the mind is the most important. Apart from that, what need is there? This is what is it. That I think sums up everything basically. He gave many good examples. Like, if you need to smooth the whole earth so that you can walk, it's impossible to, get that much leather. But if you wear a pair of shoes, then it's a bit like walking in the smooth surface. Likewise, there's no point of, neutralizing all the hostile force externally. It is better to just tame your mind, so on and so forth. not only the Shantadeva's Bodhicharya Avatara, but all the Buddha's teaching. But since there's this question, I would say, for the beginners, something like shamatha or vipassana is very good. Yes, actually, shamatha and vipassana, and especially vipassana. I have to tell you this one. Especially I have to tell. Yeah, it's good that I remember, because I don't know. This is all my paranoia. This is all in my mind. So you don't really have to seriously sort of make a big deal out of this. I feel that sometimes, especially England, this I don't know, I've noticed this. The English have amazing connection with the Theravada tradition, I have a feeling. This is good, very good. This is fantastic. Really, I'm not being diplomatic here. Really, it's fantastic, it's really good. But I think we have to be careful here that so-called mindfulness that people seem to have some kind of a love affair with at the moment, this mindfulness don't hijack vipassana. Because vipassana, again, is back to non-duality. Without the non-duality, there is no vipassana. And actually, vipassana is so important, really. The discipline of vipassana, doing nothing, that is really bringing you quite close, really quite close to the non-duality. Just observing, because that's all you can do right now. After a while, when your vipassana develops and when it matures, you have to even transcend the practice of just observing. That you have to. But right now, for most of us, we don't know what that means. But yes, I think that's it, no? If you have questions, I didn't prepare anything. This was thought of literally 3 days ago, is it? 3 days ago?
3 days ago.
3 days ago, I suddenly remember Brighton. So I didn't prepare, or I have no specific things to say, but ladies seem to have these 2 questions. Okay. Yes.
Yes, Rinpoche, can you give us some tips, please, on how to be more useless in everyday life?
No, that's a good question, actually. We can always begin with, as what Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche said, developing the genuine heart of sadness. I think that's good. Genuine heart of sadness, like doing all these things what we do, and really knowing that this is just such a game. This is a game that I have to play because I'm conditioned to play. And I think that will bring you very close. I think this genuine heart of sadness is good. Because genuine heart of sadness is very much to do with awareness of this awareness that things that we think are so useful are actually useless. We don't know this enough. We may know this intellectually, but we don't know it enough. And really, you will experience this the moment you go into a third-class train in India. Especially when you are running out of the sanitizing what? Handkerchief. After a while, all these people, they touch here and then they But if you live long there, then after a while, you have to give up these things. You can't do. You have to surrender. Yeah. Goal, aim, plan, schedules, friends. Yeah, but unfortunately, we do still have a lot of challenges though. And there are things like telephone bills, grocery bills, police, tax office, what do you call it? Revenue office. Yeah. Those things. But once you reach to a certain level, you will reach to a level where those will not bother you. Then people will begin to think that you have gone off. But then, if you have seen the value of uselessness, you will not be bothered. So what? They think I've gone off. You will be completely free. That's what those sadhus must be doing. I really admire those sadhus in India. The train station, it's nothing. They have no plans. Many of them, they say, where are you going tomorrow? I'm going to Varanasi. And then day after tomorrow, they look at you like this. What do you mean? Why you ask about day after tomorrow? That's good. But the problem is this modern world doesn't allow us to do this, isn't it? In one way. But on the other, I think so. I think we can. There's still this is the beauty of the spiritual path. As much the challenge is growing, the method to, overcome that also grows, of course. In your case, I would say, to become the next opposition leader of Australian Parliament is being useless and really aspiring to become a useless person. No, because the uselessness needs to be interpreted that way. Really? Okay. Other questions? Oh yeah, Do you have a question?
Oh, no, I'll just
Okay.
the microphone.
Okay.
Rinpoche, is Buddha nature an actualization of non-duality?
Yes, they are same thing. Exactly same thing. Very good question. Yeah.
Rinpoche, I've actually met some of the people in Oxford that you refer to. I went to a conference on science and Buddhism where I met Dennis Noble and various other professors. And it's quite shocking because there does seem to be a movement at the moment in England to sanitize Buddhism or to de-Buddhify Buddhism. I think you may be aware of Stephen Batchelor, who is teaching at the moment what seems to me, he's saying that the entire Mahayana tradition knows nothing about what Buddha actually said. I mean, this is what he claims.
Yeah, I heard that just yesterday, around precisely between 4 to 5:30, I had a big discussion with one of the most important figure in the Oxford University's Buddhist circle, Professor Gombrich.
Yes.
Yes. He said Mahayana is nothing to do with Buddha, and non-duality is not a teaching of the Buddha. Yeah.
But in fact, I want to make one more point. I mean, you said that it's not possible to prove non-duality, but I've just spent 10 years writing a book about quantum theory and Buddhist philosophy. And in fact, quantum theory shows us that the two truths is absolutely correct, because behind the material world, there is a non-dual world. It is called the quantum wave function. This is known now.
This is
known.
right.
I mean, Professor Henry Stab says matter does not exist. We know now it's mind-like.
Right. Now, I don't know how to phrase this properly because I'm still learning. What do they say? They say something like, to build a sound theory of a science, it has to be falsifiable, isn't it?
That's what they say, yes.
And this seems to be their argument to say
yes,
these are just a story.
But quantum theory they've tried to falsify quantum theory now for at least 80 years. And quantum theory shows us, as Professor Stapp and many other people say, that matter does not exist and the ultimate nature is mind-like.
Right.
This has now been proved by science. But in the West, most scientists don't want to believe it.
In the West?
Most scientists don't want to believe it. So
Right.
people at Oxford even deny modern science. Stephen Batchelor, for instance, does not know about what latest science actually says.
I see. This I don't know. That's interesting.
Should we stand up against this
Right,
kind of heresy?
You know, I'm still, this is only my third day, so I'm learning a lot, actually. I'm learning a lot in the Buddhist study because this is something that we Tibetans are lagging behind, okay? Many things, actually. For instance, I'll give you one example. Like old artifacts, like tankas, paintings, statues. And there is technology or the study of preserving them, maintaining them. Try to explain that to the Tibetan lamas. It just doesn't work. For them, maintaining means putting on a shrine, wrap with a scarf, and things. And this has a root, actually. I think so. Things like all compounded things are impermanent. You cannot maintain things. This kind of philosophy is inside their gene. So they are fundamentally not interested. This is just an example. Now, likewise, I think in the West, dates, this is what I was telling you earlier, manufacturing dates. I can understand why people like Stephen Batchelor would say Mahayana Buddhism. In fact, there are a lot of people who said that Nagarjuna is not a Buddhist. I can understand because they say that Mahayana, and especially Vajrayana, of course Vajrayana is, no. That's a Hindu thing. Because of the dates and evidence. But I'm not so worried about that because this is an argument that has been going on for 2,000 years. And I know very well that as a Mahayana practitioner, I have a burden to prove to a Theravadan that my teaching also comes from the Buddha. Whereas Theravadins don't have the burden to prove that Theravada is a teaching of the Buddha. Because I have to accept that. I actually enjoy having that burden. Because one has to be careful. To be a follower of a figure that came 2,500 years ago, fundamentally it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't give me the satisfaction. That to me sounds like you are a follower of a guy who came 2,500 years ago. I would rather be the follower of the Buddha within, so to speak. That to me is much more important. But this is, of course, any scholars can always argue and say that this, I could be inventing my own, Buddhism and all of that. But I still think there's a way to protect ourselves. For instance, like a fourth seal, for noble truth. Yes.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche, for your teachings. Earlier on when you were discussing doubt, and you said that doubt arises in our minds because we are victims of logic.
Yes.
I was just wondering if you could expand upon that and offer some advice about how we can combat doubt in our lives.
The logic is very limited. Logic is very, very limited. Logic is a very good tool. Even in the Buddhist studies, actually we spend a lot of time studying Buddhist logic. It's called pramana. Actually, like standard Buddhist philosophy student will spend almost 6 years just studying Buddhist logic. It's very important. But we have always been told that the logic we study to value and to validate the view. This is always for the purpose. So once you establish the view, then you see, I think the Buddhist concept of hearing, contemplation and meditation, you must have heard this. This is a very important one. I don't know, maybe I'm totally wrong. This is probably a concept that the West doesn't have. Maybe West has hearing and contemplation. Meditation, I don't know. Maybe they have it in their own sort of way, but especially for the spiritual path, meditation is so important, because the logic alone cannot. Logic can only bring you from A to maybe D. A, B, C, D. That's about it. Then the logic will collapse. From there, But it has done its good job, because somewhere when you are around sea, lots of dreams and physical experience and things like light coming from the nostril and like visions of the Buddha and like shaman is coming inside you and stuff like that will come, and those are very dangerous. So for that you need logic. And once you combat them, then what do you need? You need daringness. Daringness. And what do I mean by daringness? I was telling earlier, to be useless. Really. Why we don't have the daringness? Because we think there's something to lose. And you have to really prepare to lose everything. Until if you hang on even a little bit, like a handkerchief, that would be so sad, right? That you almost managed to get enlightenment except for that handkerchief. That would have been such a ridiculous thing. So you have to really be able to get it, and all kinds of this is useful, let's take this, to the spiritual journey you go without any packing, anything being packed, no sandwich, no fresh underwear, no comb, nothing. You walk naked. This is kind of necessary. It's difficult though, very difficult, because you always say, oh no, this one, like the toothpick we need. I usually need a toothpick. I better take along, because what if I have an itchy feeling under my teeth or something like that, Something like that. It's always a ridiculous problem. It's always a small, ridiculous, stupid problem that will disturb your enlightenment. It's never going to be some, like a very sophisticated obstacle with the fangs and tails and, like very majestic looking obstacle that's going to stop you achieving enlightenment. It's always going to be something really ridiculous, I tell you. Like a worn out shoes, or I don't know. Like a football ticket. I have a feeling that's going to be mine. Okay, what else?
Thank you, Rinpoche. Millions of frustrations. Would you explain the difference between contemplation and meditation?
Contemplation has a lot of analysis. Is this it? Is this not it? Am I doing right? No, Nagarjuna said this, not like that. It's not as much like a reading or a hearing, listening. It's more like you making lots of stories in your head, debating. When you meditate, especially when you meditate, you see, after hearing and contemplation, you then come to some kind of a conclusion, right? You have to come to a conclusion. And once you come to that conclusion, meditation, you then you do the analysis. You just basically try to get used to that conclusion. Meditation in Tibetan, many times, the Tibetan word for meditation is gom. Gom has this connotation of getting accustomed to whatever that view. Okay, 2 more questions and then we will go.
Good afternoon, Rinpoche. Thanks for popping over from India to see us all and help us. Thank you very much for popping over from India to help us all today on this incredible journey. I think the question I have to ask at the moment is, I've been in Dharma for, I think I met it about in 1996 or something like that. Somebody gave me a ticket to see the Dalai Lama. And it seemed very cool, so I got into it. And it's been an incredible, wonderful journey. But I've reached a great big problem, and it's called lack of compassion for myself. Because I keep thinking I should be this and I should be that. And I've read endless books. And I wonder, from your point of view and from your own journey, when you sat and you meditated, and you saw what is it you are, and how you lack compassion, how can you find that love for yourself and that compassion for yourself so that there is a moment of time where you can love yourself and therefore love that non-dual self, which is everything and everybody in this world and in this room?
For the beginners, I don't know from the top of my head. For if you are a really, really beginner, I would suggest two things. One is aspiration. That's really important. Aspiration again and again and again. Aspiration to have that love and compassion. Yeah? Okay. The other is you should read second half of the 6th chapter of Chandrakirti, Madhyamika Avatara, where he systematically deconstructs the idea of self. Once you do that, then you will have no burden to even think about loving and having compassion towards oneself or others. And that is actually a greatest love and compassion, because it's not partial. Okay. Last one. Why don't you just speak? I can hear. Attribute is, that I've actually demonstrated quite well. Remember that I was telling about the Tara statue? That's an attribute. That's quite good. Like being able to actually really make hundreds of others, hundreds and hundreds, years after years, having the attribute to make them believe that he is she. What an amazing attribute, I feel. Okay. Anyway, this is very spontaneous, but amazing that suddenly there's so many here. This alone must indicate the aspiration and the compassion and the blessing of the Shakyamuni is really vigorously entering into the minds of even a place like Brighton. Is that an insult? No? Okay. No, actually I shouldn't say even, because this is where many hippies used to stay, right? Hippies, grunges. Huh? Hippies? Grunges. Because hippies, and I think the hippies, they're quite, they were really, I think they tempted to taste the uselessness. And that's very admirable. That's very admirable. May they live long. Okay. Okay. That's all, I think, today.
Thank you. Thank you, Rinpoche. First of all, I have to apologise to Rinpoche and to everybody here that we didn't attempt to freeze you. I know everybody's rather cold. We couldn't do much about it midway. Next time, if it happens like that, we'll supply blankets. So sorry that everybody's still a bit cold. Second thing, most important thing, Rinpoche, thank you so very much. I think somehow in Brighton, we did believe in the unbelievable, and you are here. A Buddha manifested in Brighton, and for that is extraordinary. The history of this particular room that we're in, if you can actually look at it, it started out as a chapel. And then after it was a chapel, it then became a casino. And now, today, it's become a Buddha field. So thank you, Rinpoche. A couple of requests that I'd like to make. One is that you wrote the book, What Makes You Not a Buddhist, which has helped so many people. And I'd like to request, I think this is the second time I requested, I think I did put into writing at one point, if you would follow up that book of What Makes You Not a Buddhist with something on a similar theme within Tantric Buddhism. So I request that again on behalf of everybody. Also, we request you, it's been 11 years, I think, since you were here. Please don't let it be another 11 years, because some of us here might have popped off by then, and that would be extremely sad. So please come back soon. From the depth of our hearts, we have loved you. We love you being here. And perhaps the other thing I want to say is that, as we always do, we dedicate the merit of Rinpoche's teachings, of course, to the benefit of all sentient beings and the enlightenment of all sentient beings, and also today, particularly, to the merit of a great good friend of ours, Gerhard Godé, who passed away just a week ago in Chanteloup in Dordogne, and who was so much part of all our Sangha, and who is still part of all our Sangha, wherever he is at the present. And we would like to dedicate all of this for him as well. Thank you so much, Rinpoche, and we hope you will come back very, very soon. Please don't go. Please don't go just yet.
Maybe instead of offering kata, maybe shake hands and.
Okay.
It's so messy.
Too messy. Okay.
Like all of that.
Rinpoche said I requested him before if we could offer katas to him, but actually, even though you've all got your katas, he would prefer just to shake hands with you because it's a little bit messy. So please do that when.